It is mid-spring here in Zone 6B, Missouri, and I'm going to give you a tour of my garden to show you what I'm still growing here in my small space container vegetable garden, as well as how I'm planning to transition some of my containers over into the summer growing season. This arch trellis was something new that we installed this year in an attempt to add more vertical gardening to my small space so that I could grow even more. For the spring growing season, I chose to grow my snap peas. They are just now flowering, so they do still have a few weeks before I'll be done harvesting them and be able to start a summer vining vegetable plant on them. This trellis is located back by my kitchen door, and I love having herbs just right out the door to make it easy to come out and snip some off when I'm making a dish. And so back here I have some sage, rosemary, and parsley. I am also growing some cilantro seedlings right there as well. On the other side of the trellis, I have more rosemary, Italian oregano, dill, and more cilantro seedlings. This next container is one of my favorites that I have back here on my deck. So it's a metal container. It's on a wooden platform with wheels. That makes it really easy to move it if we need more or less sunlight. And in this container, I currently have Swiss chard here in the front. I have endive, leaf lettuce. There are some Swiss chard seedlings, kale, and then I have the snap peas growing up the back. Those are also just starting to flower like the ones on the arch trellis. They were planted around the same time. Now, earlier in the spring season where the leaf lettuce is, I was growing tatsoi, and I was able to harvest that around mid-April. And so once I harvested that, I then planted the leaf lettuce seeds, knowing that I would have time for those to grow before the end of the spring growing season. I also had some traditional spinach, and that did bolt pretty early on. This is the second year that's happened to me, and so I don't think I'm going to grow any more of that variety of spinach. We do have the cabbage moth here where I live, and I'm pretty good about checking my plants to make sure I'm scraping the eggs or caterpillars off, but a few of the leaves did get a little more damage. It's not a big deal. I'll still be able to harvest and use the kale, but it is just a nice reminder that I need to be staying on top of that and making sure to get the eggs and caterpillars off of all of my brassicas. This is my first year growing endive. I just wanted to show you, I think this is a really beautiful vegetable plant. It is pretty slow growing, so it's taking its time. I do have flowers in my hanging baskets. I've seen a lot of pollinators, especially here in the last couple of weeks as it's warmed up. So that is a really great sign. I have a lot going on in this container. So in the first section, we have carrots. I do wish I had planted these earlier. They are taking quite a while, as carrots do. And I'm a little worried about how warm it's getting with how much time they still have left to go. So we'll see what happens there. In this container, I also have kale. You can see another endive back behind the carrots. In this middle container, I have radishes. I've already harvested several from the front section there. I'm just waiting on the rest to get a little bigger before I harvest them. I have a few different types of kale as well. And then in this container, we have more Swiss chard. So these beets were actually one of my fails this year. They did not get enough sunlight. I didn't think about how tall these surrounding greens were going to get, and they really shaded the beets and did not get enough sunlight for them to develop a good beetroot. I will still be able to eat the beet greens. They are really good, so I'll add those to salads and stir fries. But unfortunately, at this time of year, with it getting hot pretty soon, I am not feeling optimistic about these being able to create big enough roots for me to harvest them for that. In this container, I have a lot of greens. So I have mostly Swiss chard in the front and back, and then I have some Tuscan kale in the middle there. And I purposefully filled this with the Swiss chard because once the warm weather gets here and my tree canopy fills in, which it has by this time of the year, this back container will be completely shaded. And so I really struggled my first several years to grow anything back here that needed sunlight, which is most vegetables. And when I first started growing Swiss chard a few years in, I realized that it was something that could grow pretty well in the shade. And so I just filled this one back here with Swiss chard. And so I'm able to harvest greens from this container all throughout the spring, summer, and fall. This railing container, I'm growing parsley. As you can see, it's growing really well. And in this container, I have parsley, Greek oregano, and thyme. This container is going to look very different here in just the next couple of days. So on the far right, I have carrots. I am going to leave them in there for a few more weeks and hope that they get a little bit bigger, and I'll be able to harvest them here at the end of May, early June. In the middle, we have mustard spinach, and it's not looking great right now, but this was growing beautifully all throughout the spring. I got so many harvests from this mustard spinach. At this point, it is starting to bolt. It's been bolting for the last week or so, but I planted this March 2nd, this whole container. I planted it from seed. It was my first year growing mustard spinach. I will definitely be growing that again next year. To the left, where there's kind of a bare patch right now, I had that traditional spinach variety that I talked about earlier, which bolted pretty early on. And so once that bolted, I pulled it. I did plant more Swiss chard, so that's what's growing there now. And again, like the other container, I will let that grow throughout the rest of the season and will be my source of leafy greens here in the upcoming summer months. Behind those is my arugula, and that also grew really, really well. It is also starting to bolt, and so here in the next couple days, I'll start pulling some of those plants, and then the remaining that are still good to eat, I will go ahead and harvest and eat over the next week. In this railing container, I have mint, which as you can see is growing great. Mint always does. It tends to take over. So I harvest that one a lot and make sure that I cut back the runners. In the middle, I have Italian oregano and then thyme. These metal containers are some of the first ones that I bought as a vegetable gardener. So I've grown a lot in these over the last 7 years. I've been vegetable gardening. In the left, I have mint and kale. In the middle, I have dill and kale. And on the right, more Swiss chard, parsley, and thyme. This is a raised bed on my lower patio. Currently, I have parsley and celery. In the middle, I did have Napa cabbage. I had 2 of them, but they did bolt pretty early, so I had to pull those. And at this point, I'm just kind of waiting to start getting some of my summer vegetables in there. So I'll be doing that here in the next week or so. This is my front raised bed. This one gets the most sunlight, and so I definitely take advantage of that and put my larger vegetable plants out here. I have red cabbage, and that still probably has a couple weeks or more until those heads are fully formed. So we will just keep those in until they're ready. In the middle, I have celery. It's growing really well. This is my first year growing celery. I'm pretty pleased with it. And then I have snap peas growing up that trellis. They are just now starting to flower. So these also have a couple weeks until I'm able to harvest those. And then I will be putting cucumbers on there. Down here, I was trying to grow beets, but similar to the ones in the back, they just did not get enough sunlight. In the lower section, I did have a Napa cabbage, but that one also bolted. I have radishes growing there. That chive plant was overwintered, so this is actually year 2. I have more bok choy. I'm actually going to get ready to harvest that here this evening. And then in this bed, I'm going to put a lot of my tomatoes because, like I said, this gets the most sunlight of all the different containers and beds on my property. And as you can see, we do have drip irrigation in this one. We also have drip irrigation in the back patio one that I showed you just before this. And so that makes it really helpful also with those tomatoes and peppers and other summer vegetable plants that need that consistent watering in the heat of the summer. Thanks for joining me on my late spring garden tour. I will be completely changing these garden beds here in the next 1 to 2 weeks as I move over to the summer growing season. So I'll make sure to give an update once we are underway with that.